Hey guys, welcome back. We have another, I would say, review or overview of a tool today. If you guys are familiar with older brands, then you probably will know this one. It's a SK set. This one's a little bit different than my other tools. This is definitely really important to me. It was passed down by my grandpa. So it's definitely a good set. It's 1/2 inch drive. He used to have a big old Dodge truck and used to take his camper around the country, and this was what he had in the back of his truck to change spare tires and stuff like that. So it definitely was important to me, and I figured I'd share it with you guys because I think they're very underrated as a tool manufacturer. SK Tools, if you guys don't know, was a very old company out of Chicago, and they made tools since, I want to say, about the 30s, something like that. Again, around the same time frame that you see places like Snap-on and Craftsman coming up in that area. You know, Snap-on, of course, coming from Wisconsin, Craftsman coming from Chicago. So a lot of those big tool manufacturers, Armstrong, them too, coming in the late 1800s. So there's a lot of competition in that area. SK used to be in a lot of places throughout the country. They kind of morphed their way only to online now, which is kind of sad. That's what a lot of people don't know about them. But I figured that I'll show you guys this. That way, if you ever come in and if you ever look at it, you know, if you're looking on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or anything like that, and you see one of these sets, you know what you're looking at, you know what they're worth, you know if they're good or not. So we'll look at the ratchet first. So there's a lot of different iterations of this ratchet, but they're all the same overall ratchet. This one just says SK, and on the back it says US patent number, and then it gives you the patent number. Even though this one is not stamped USA made, all of these, to my knowledge, are made in the United States in terms of these types of round head ratchets. SK was one of the first companies to, I would say, perfect the round head ratchet. These types of ratchets by SK have been made for decades now. They are very, very, very common in the aftermarket, yet not a lot of people know about them. They're great. I mean, their tooth count is, I want to say, like 45 or something like that. So nothing super low. They're overall, I mean, really, really nice. The only problem with this one, you can tell by just the plainness of this top font, is it was during I would say, the financial hardships of SK in the 90s and early 2000s. They were going through a tough time. A lot of people feared they were going out of business. This one, I think, is from the 90s. And so their quality control kind of suffered because of it. I mean, you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but the knurling on the handle is not really crisp. The overall grinding of this handle down to the main shaft is super, super uneven. And the end of it is super not straight. The bottom of it is not knurled right here. So, I mean, there's definitely quality control issues compared to the older SK sets. This is not seen if you went to Amazon or sktools.com and bought one today. You definitely wouldn't see this quality control issue. But if you're looking at these SK sets, again, from that time period of the early 2000s and 1990s, you're gonna see this as a pretty common occurrence. That being said, SK, their Super Chrome or whatever it's called, is probably one of the best in the whole entire industry. Rarely do I ever find these rusted out, regardless if I'm in, my family's from North Carolina, so regardless if I'm in North Carolina or my wife's family's from Illinois, if I'm in Illinois, they rarely are super rusted out, which is very, very uncommon. You'll see a lot of Snap-ons and Craftsman's rusted out. These ones really aren't ever rusted out, which is nice. So you have the ratchet here. You have your extension. This is just a basic 6-inch extension. Again, the quality control issues are apparent on here too, not nearly as blatant, But if you probably can't tell based on the camera, but the shaft of the extension is just barely not straight. So it's just, you know, it's just the little details that, you know, drive me insane. But, you know, it's still a functional tool. It might be a deal breaker for you, not really that big of a deal for me, but something to look for when you're looking out for these. The next thing on the list is this breaker bar. Nice thing about these is that, I mean, these sets are old school sets. Even though they're not made super long ago, they have, you know, your breaker bar and stuff like that included with them. This one's nice because it is a comfort grip breaker bar. So, I mean, that's a little bit before its time for that generation. Again, SK Tools, and this one actually is printed and made in the United States. Up here, you can kind of see some of those quality control issues. So, up here, not really grounded down, you know, 100% perfect. The shaft is straight on this one, but again, there's some nicks and dings that aren't from, you know, normal use of it. But overall, it still works fine. The head is still very tight, and this, you know, this set has definitely been used for the last 30 years. So it's definitely nice to have that as an option. The nice thing about this still is that you can still get repair kits through SK for these ratchets and these breaker bars. So all you have to do, I've ordered a couple of repair kits for other ratchets from them. All you do is email them. 9 times out of 10, they'll send you a new one. They don't want anything back from you. So it's really nice, easy process. And then we look at the sockets. So we'll just look at this one as an example for all of them. It is a 1 1/4. Again, the chrome is beautiful on these. This is well used, and it still looks great. It says SK, and then they all say USA on them. The bottoms are grounded pretty well. It's just a straight drive. There's no, you know, fanciness like you see on the Snap-ons or the later Craftsmans or anything like that. But they still do their purpose. And then the insides are pretty well, you know, grounded down. The chrome plating though does not go all the way into the socket. So if you see them rusting, that's usually where the rust is coming from, is inside the socket. But other than that, I mean, they seem to be overall really nice sockets. Again, the chrome on the outside of these is great though. They rarely chip. If they do chip, you're in for a lot of chipping, because they're not like, you know, they're gonna chip a tad. If they start chipping, their whole thing's chipping, which is kind of a pain. But I've only had, I would say, you know, 6 or 7 sockets that actually have done that before, and maybe 1 or 2 ratchets. But overall, yeah, I just want to give you an overview on this. Educate you on a little bit of SK history, I would say, just solely for the fact that a lot of people don't know SK as a brand, and it's definitely a good brand to look out for.